Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secondary Heroes podcast. It's episode 126. We're talking about Netflix's big super hit, Squid Game. This is your host, Trevor, and joining me as usual is...
Hey guys, it's number 0. This is Prague.
That's a squid. Hey, this is DeLorean Wolfgang.
And we have a special guest joining us this week.
Hi guys, I'm Michelle. I'm going to be your resident K-drama quasi-expert.
Oh,
Nice.
Ooh, what does K mean?
Korean.
So whenever I
there
go to
you
my
go.
Keurig and I'm using my K cups, am I using Korean cups?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh man, I'm so confused.
Don't confuse Alex. Please.
So
don't.
whenever a baseball player gets a strikeout as a pitcher and he gets a K, is he just getting a Korean?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
I'm just checking. I need to know since you're the K drama expert.
That's fair.
This is true. So tell
These
us,
are
Alex,
really bad
did you
jokes.
watch this show? Did you watch this show, Alex?
Ladies and gentlemen, when I think of Squid Games, I think of people just tossing around a bunch of squids. So
what
no.
happens.
I did not watch this show.
We figured we should tell everybody at the start that Alex has not watched it. He is listening in on us today.
But you know what? I'm gonna learn something. I'm gonna see if you guys can convince me to watch this show.
Okay. So, if you are new, we like to start off our podcast with a spoiler-free portion before we dive in and spoil all kinds of stuff. And I think with this episode, since like hundreds of millions of people have seen it, it's going to be tough to spoil it for too many people, but you never know. You could be like Alex. And so, with that spoiler-free idea, who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So when the sperm whale came through and the giant squid attached itself around the squid, unbelievable. Favorite scene. Oh, wait, was that a spoiler? I probably should have waited for the spoilers on that one. My bad, guys.
Should have.
Okay, your
Thanks
turn.
a lot.
These are bad
who
jokes. I'm
should go
sorry. These are
first?
bad jokes.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I got this. So for me, I'm not a big K-drama person. I've never seen one before Squid Game, but I do know that good shows, it doesn't matter what language it is. Case in point, Dark. And so I was going to give it a chance just because everyone on Earth was talking about it. And I didn't have the highest expectations, and I think that would color my view. But I thought it was a really entertaining show. I thought it was a great social commentary. I found out after the fact that this is sensationalized, but there is some truth to kind of the bare core ideas that's happening in South Korea and what's going on, which is makes it that much more devastating. But just they did really good character development. I actually cared about the characters, especially I think episode 6 highlights you caring about the characters, and that means it's a good show. If you actually can create it where you care when a character, anything happens to that character, that's a good show. And I watched it with all of the subtitles. I think you have to watch it in the native language, please, whatever
Yes,
it is, do so.
please. Not- yeah, I agree.
And I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed all 9 episodes, and I think that everybody should watch it. Just it caught me again. Don't watch any trailers. Just go into this and just really find out what happens, because there's a lot of the overarching idea, but there's a lot of twists and turns along the way.
Yeah. All right. Well said. Except for Alex, who has watched the trailer, because we made him watch it right before the show. So other than Alex, do not watch the trailer. I guess I'll go next. Ladies last.
Sure.
Unless you want to, if you want to go first, next.
It's okay. I
Go
can.
ahead.
You go. I'll go last.
I think I'm going to echo a bit of what Trevor said. I'm not familiar with K-drama much either. I've seen, a couple of films out of Korea that were horror-based, so I kind of know that they can be brutal. So I kind of knew that there'd be some brutality in this, and there was. So I appreciated that. I will say that this is surprisingly a really great show. A lot of, I think, the best shows on Netflix seem to be foreign entities. for whatever reason, they're making better shows. And I don't know if that's because they don't feel like they're so like in-house made. They're kind of left to their own devices. There's still a bit of that Netflix kind of over the whole thing, but overall, I enjoyed it for the most part. I do have some issues with it. It was tough to get through certain episodes because they were quite long, and I think it would have benefited from either less episodes or having it be like a film instead of a full series. But I do think that helped with the character development, because I don't think I would have cared as much for these characters had it been a movie. So maybe just tighten it a bit, and it would have been even better for me, because I did find myself trudging through a couple of the episodes. So
I find that interesting that you said that, because we just had a conversation. I don't remember what was it. We just talked about a movie that we were like, this would be better if it was a TV show.
Oh, dude, I know. Yes. This is flip-flopped for me. Like, this is the first time I felt the opposite, I think. Yeah. I think there are. I think the biggest, and I'll talk about this more during the spoiler part, but I think that too many scenes lingered for way too long, and I felt myself like just skipping through stuff. Like, I was like, okay, this shot's going to be held for 5 minutes. I don't need to see that. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good. I think it met my expectations. It didn't exceed anything. I knew it was going to be pretty brutal and good. And I knew, based on the fact that it was such a sensation, that it would be kind of that show that you kind of wanted to keep watching. You know, that's what Netflix does best, I think. So, yeah, I think it's worth a watch for those of you who are like, oh, it's just a big phenomenon, don't worry about it. I say at least watch it, give it a shot. You know, I think it's worth your time. It says a lot about, our society.
So, Michelle.
To me. So as somebody who has watched many K-dramas, this is very outside my wheelhouse. Even there, I don't watch a lot of like horror thriller based K-dramas at all. So it was new for me in that respect. I remember we saw the title card on Netflix when I were watching something, and I was like, that looks interesting. And I remember at the time, the little clip they played, I was like, I have no idea what the show is about. It sounds interesting. But we're kind of like, we'll come back to it later. And then like 2 days later, everyone was talking about it. And I was just on him. I'm like, we have to watch it. We have to watch it. We have to watch it. Everyone's talking about it. We have to watch it. So I was already like on the hype train, ready to go. It was definitely more gruesome than the kind of stuff I watch in my off time. But I really liked the dichotomy between like the whole premise of the show and the like colors they used and the music choices they used. And I feel like it just felt very artsy at some points because of that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the social commentary, and also because of that social commentary, the conversations that it developed, like when I would talk to coworkers about the show and things like that. It really brought up topics that were deeper than the show themselves that you could talk about. So I really liked that it kind of was like, it was like a lead in to more serious things than just a show. So I really like that about it, and that's why I think it's worth a watch, is because it's so much more than just this phenomenon that everybody's talking about. I mean, it's exciting for me. Like I like K-pop and I like K-drama, and it's exciting to see other people like kind of get in on things from the Korean culture, because they make a lot of good shows. Like, this isn't like a one-off. A lot of K-dramas are very good. A lot of them are very cheesy, but a lot of them are very good. So that was exciting for me too. So it's just exciting to see people get on board with this. And I will also mirror that, please watch it in Korean. There's already been a lot of debate about whether or not even the translation to English in subtitles is accurate enough. Mm-hmm. But there's only so much you can do for people who don't speak Korean. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, speaking of social commentary, hey, check us out over on crossthestreamsmedia.com. You can find all of our social medias over there, from the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You can listen to all of our episodes over on the site as well. You can leave us voicemails. You can be a part of the show by talking to us through there. It's pretty cool stuff. And there's a lot of other shows over there. If you don't want to go through there, you can find us at Secondary Heroes everywhere on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff that I just mentioned before, and YouTube. YouTube is kind of our big hitter right now. I'm really enjoying seeing, seeing a lot of interaction on YouTube, which I'm really loving. So thank you guys for coming in there and doing all of that. And while you're over there, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for YouTube, because that helps the algorithm in YouTube and it helps us tremendously. And just remember, all of this is free for you and it's priceless to us.
Cool.
Well said.
And so now, before we do get into super spoilers, I do want to emphasize one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate things that are hyped, no matter what it is. I have a predisposition, like
Same here.
there's something that's stupid about this. People are stupid. There's something about it. And this one, I have to admit, it actually, I understand the hype. Usually, hype doesn't kind of match what's coming from it, but I don't even understand. It seems like this isn't people's wheelhouse in terms of the intelligent commentary and the
Right?
cinematography and the set design and all of the just really, really artsy. You brought up artsy is, it almost has elements of like a Wes Anderson film, especially when they're going
gonna
through
say
the corridor.
I was like, yep.
So
One of my nitpicks, but yes.
no, I figured
like
it would
certain-
be.
Certain elements I did enjoy the artiness of it, and some I didn't. But
It's
that's
the
okay. I mean,
visual
I don't mind that. I
contrast.
don't hate it. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Which is fun.
Well, and like
So.
you were just mentioning, you were talking about the hype of this. Now, the last thing that I can remember that was hyped massively by Netflix was Tiger King. And I think maybe that was the stigma that I had against this, just the
Mhm.
same as you, Trevor, is like, I watched Tiger King and I was disappointed in myself for watching that whole thing, because my God, was that just a mess. We're watching garbage people do garbage people things type of thing. Now,
Right.
maybe that was the stigma that I had against this, because that's what Netflix does, is it overhypes a lot of their shows. Now,
Underhypes a lot of shows too. Sadly.
Interestingly, of the
Yeah.
garbage people doing garbage people things, that's how you could describe Squid Game as well.
Oh my God.
But it's
art-
dramatized. And it's
Traumatized.
scripted.
That's funny. Yes.
but I
that is-
mean, from the trailer that I did see, the colors and stuff like that, it all looks beautifully done. Like even the set that they built with all the stairs looks absolutely insane.
yeah, the MCS or staircase scene. That's fantastic. Oh yeah. That was
I
good
guess
stuff.
sure.
Sure.
In the trailer, it was at the beginning of the trailer, so if that's
It
the
is.
end,
It was heavily featured in the show for sure. But
Oh,
to your point, Trevor, I think that I think people are just kind of now really starting to dive headfirst into the whole K scene, like the whole Korean drama, K-pop. Like I think people are just like they're really accepting of like new and different weird cinema. Like the artistic style was weird, but I think you're seeing that more and more in like music videos and advertisements and what stars are wearing on red carpets. Like it's that kind of like that mindset that people are in right now, and I think it worked really well for the show. And it ties back to something that's familiar to everybody, is the childhood games we play. We've all played these, so it's an easy thing for people to latch onto. So I think that's what helped it be as hyped as it was.
I
And
think
we're all
you-
poor and want money. So
It-
that also.
Well,
thing to
yeah,
latch
of
on
course.
to.
Everyone wants money, right? Yeah. Especially, what was it, 45 billion, whatever that translates to.
It's
And
basically, think about like 1,000 won is basically $1.
You drop 3 zeros,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
So it's based about 45.6 million USD,
still, I would
approximately.
still want that. I
That's
wouldn't mind that
the
at all.
easiest way to do the conversion. It's more complicated than that. I think a won is like 83 cents or something like that. 1,000 won is 83 cents. But that's the easy math. It's close enough.
All right. Crazy.
So again, this one, we have 9 episodes to work with in discussion. So I think we can't just jump around with highlights, because that would be too confusing, but a recap would be too boring. So we're going to try to find a fine-tuned line, and I think it's more highlights per episode. So you kind of progress through the story while
Okay.
still kind of showing it. So I think with episode 1, what really sets the whole show is how many people die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Even
kind of
how-
shocking that many of the whole team right off the bat.
Even
Yeah.
how unforgiving it was. Like,
Mhm.
that's what shocked me. Like, I knew, I was like, oh, people are going to die. That's what the elimination is. But how, like, any movement, like, even just, like, shaking, boom, you're dead.
Yeah.
And then again with all like the colors and like the really creepy robot doll, which is on everything for Squid Game, even though she only appears. I guess she kind of appears in the last game, but she really appears in the first game. So yeah, definitely the first game is definitely probably the highlight of the first episode for sure. And just how
it sets the
shocking
tone
it is.
because
Yeah.
the very beginning we kind of are introduced to the characters and it's like, okay, life sucks. Yeah, we get it. You know, they have debts. It's really aggressive. Like interest is 200%. He's selling away part of his like organs and stuff. You see how hard up you have to set up. Who would go out and compete for money? Who would literally say, I'm going to have the chance to die, but I can win a bunch of money? It's one thing to go buy a lottery ticket and it costs you $1. It's another to say, I'm going to put my life on the line.
Well, I mean, it's not like they knew they were putting their life on the line. Like when they play the game with the salesman, who I wrote down his name, he's portrayed by Gong Yoo, which if you've seen Train to Busan, he's the lead in that. He's also in tons of K-dramas, and he's awesome.
Train to Busan, that's a zombie movie, isn't that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Nice.
Good movie.
It's by the same director that did Parasite, another really, really popular Korean film. But he plays the lead in that. He plays a very small part in this. He's the salesman, and he when he walks up to them and he challenges them to the game. I wish I'd written down the name of the game, where basically you just have to flip the other person's tile by throwing it on the ground.
Yeah.
And you bet money, but obviously our lead character gi-hun, he doesn't have any money, and he's like, okay, well then I'll just take it from your body, and he just slaps him across the face instead. And that really hard, and that really kind of introduces you to the idea of, okay, that's kind of what they're doing. So it's like give your body for money. Yep. That's really what these people are doing. And it really alludes to that fact in the whole rest of the show.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like that tiles game. It sounds like Pogs.
It is kind of like Pogs, yes, because you try to flip the other one.
Yeah.
From my understanding of Korean culture, it's a game. It's a really, really old game, and mostly it's played by older people, or they play it on certain holidays in Korea. But yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like Pogs. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I want to say the one thing that I had a hard time with the first episode, because I watched the first episode a while ago and kind of stopped there for a bit. And I think it was because I didn't really care for the main character at that point yet. Like I was like, oh, he's obnoxious. Like why would I want to root for this guy? You know, he's like this guy who's like mean to his mom, and he like, you know, doesn't really seem to care that much for his daughter. I guess he does, but like, he kept like spending all of his money and throwing it away at the racetracks. I'm like, I don't know, this guy is obnoxious. I'm not too sure if I want to root for him. So thankfully I decided to keep going. I do like the character, but it was tough. It was tough trying to get through that part. Then they get to the actual game, and that's when I think I started to get into the show, was once I went, oh, okay, it's going to be like this. It's going to be brutal, harsh. It's going to be kind of eccentric and artsy and weird. And I'm like, yeah, I can go for that. So just take some time.
My favorite character from the get-go was 67, the girl, King sae-byeok. I loved her story. I was like, I want her to win. I know she's not going to win, but I want her to win.
As soon as I saw her, I'm like, yep, her. I'm like, yep, like most people did.
So there,
yes, I agree.
I did do the tiniest amount of research before this episode, and that was one of the things. There's a girl in there who, and here's the difference between having the subtitles and then having the American dub is one of the women is supposed to be like this hardcore kind of menacing gangster. But if you listen to the American version, she just comes off as psychotic and weird and just a weird and annoying. And I'm wondering if that's the same person that you're talking about.
Did she have like short hair?
Probably.
Okay, like freckles.
That's was she menacing? And
I think she's definitely more menacing than the other person it could be. I don't think, because the other character would be 212, who is that. She's the lady with the curly hair. She's crazy, but she doesn't have a gangster vibe.
Okay.
No, but so I listened to the dubbed the dubbed version just to get a feel for it, because I heard so much about it being bad, and yeah, she was the worst. The older lady with the longer hair, who was supposed to be kind of like, I don't know what she was supposed to be, honestly, but whoever the voice actor was for that person was awful. Like just terrible, like some of the worst voice acting I've ever heard in my life. So please don't do yourself a favor and watch it with subtitles. Anyways, there you go.
Teaching people to read one foreign show at a time.
Yeah, it's gonna happen at some point in America, hopefully.
Yeah, but you know, people are just gonna watch the dub, as
I
horrible as it
know.
is. Just like Money Heist, people are gonna just do it with the show too.
Yeah.
Sad.
I watched My Hero Academia with the dub.
Yeah, animation's different though because it's easier to match up lip syncing, like when it's an animated voice and when it's an actual human
Right.
voice.
No, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
but you already have that voice.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right, let's continue on.
Yeah, so
Next up.
episode 1 really sets the tone of what this is going on. And so then episode 2, they have a vote. Literally, if majority says we want to quit the games, they can end the games. And so they have this vote and they try to create tension with the vote. And I'm like, well, they have to continue the games. And so when actually the vote ended up losing, I was like, okay, this is actually an interesting story arc. And so it goes and lets everybody go back to their life. Like, we just saw over 200 people get killed right before us. They got sniped to the head. It wasn't like some silent killing or wasn't like poison. It was brutal and visceral. You have blood splattering in your face. And so I'm going to go back to my normal life. Those debts still exist. You're still, I owe 1.2 million in debt. I mean, these people are just have horrible lives. And so most come back. They decide, they voted, they leave, they go back to their life and they get a reminder how terrible it is. And they're like, I'm going to take the chance at money out of this terrible situation at the cost of death rather than living I can't live my current life anymore.
I mean, so this was something that I guess a lot of people who overlooked it. I overlooked it myself until I read an article, but Sang-woo, who is 218, he's the one that went to Seoul School of Business. He's gi-hun's childhood friend. Yep. He has the worst set, I think, that they talk about. He's like frauded a whole bunch of people. Like the police are after him. He's put up his mom's shop and home for collateral, all this stuff. And they show him right before he gets the card that invites him back, and he's in the bathtub. And there's a brick smoking next to him. And I guess in Korea, that's a really popular way to kill yourself.
Ah.
So he was literally about to kill himself when he got the card. So it makes a lot of sense why he's like, might as well go kill myself for money. And
no, for sure.
What does the brick smoking do? I don't understand.
It's carbon monoxide.
It's basically carbon monoxide poisoning. That's what you're doing.
Okay, gotcha.
Interesting.
Don't
like
do this at home, kids.
No.
Don't do anything in this show at home.
Don't play red light, green light. Don't play tug of war. Don't do that.
I mean, you
stuff
can
at home.
play these games, just don't play them the way they're played on the show. That's all. With guns pointed at your head. That's all.
That's why you have stakes, though. Imagine if you played red light, green light. Like people like, I stumbled forward.
Geez, I know, right?
And they walk off to the side. No,
right?
No laughing.
You get a Glock to the face. Pow! All right. Timmy's dead. Let's carry on.
But I think only like 10 people didn't come back.
Yeah.
We had a discussion about that, and I can't remember the exact numbers.
I mean, I need a TV show of those people who decide not to come back and just they could have this really dark despair life.
Well, I mean, maybe it's also what they needed to turn their life around. Like you look at gi-hun, and like even when he had money, he wouldn't spend it on freaking horse racing. It's not like he was like saving it or investing it or doing anything smart with it. He was gambling it.
Yeah, these people, there's a reason they're in their bad situation.
Like not all of them. Like again, you look at sae-byeok, and she's in her situation because she's from North Korea.
Yeah.
And basically, that she paid money to a broker to get her mom over from North Korea, and the broker stole her money and disappeared. So that's why she's in the situation that she's in. Mm-hmm. So like everyone has their own story, and they only explore. There's 456 people in this game, and they only explore like 6 to 8 stories really. So it's just interesting to think about why these people are really here, because I don't think everyone's a gambler or everyone's a crooked doctor or a crooked businessman or somebody that stole money from their mob boss. Like,
not everyone is. Yeah, which is why I wanted her to win.
That's true. She was there for a very moral reason. And
yeah.
So interesting about 218, but besides the joke of him being the top of his class and the other guys always he mentions it at least 10 times throughout the course of the thing. He tells everybody that he could. But he traded futures. And so if anyone's unfamiliar with stocks or crypto or anything and you think, oh, this isn't intense enough, don't ever ever trade futures. Okay, it's the stupidest thing you can do with your money imaginable. Never.
No
Could
thanks.
you explain what futures is so people know?
Yeah,
More
so I
like
had to
so
go-
I
like
know.
me.
Because
No,
no, I agree, Alex. I had no idea what it was. So I watched the first 4 episodes without him. He's like, I wanted to watch this show. So we started over together. And I had no idea what futures were when I watched it. And when the conversation came up in the show, he paused and explained it to me. I'm like, oh, that's way more serious than I realized what it was. So yeah, you
tell
should
us.
explain for people who don't know.
Well, I mean, it's just gambling on the future of companies. So you know how I think this company will do well in the future.
Right.
Imagine putting a specific amount on it over a specific time period.
Okay.
It's almost like turning it into like betting on a football score. Like, oh, at halftime, I think it's going to be this, but doing it with actual companies and their actual stock projections, which could be manipulated and fluctuate for reasons beyond anybody's proper analysis or research.
Sure.
Interesting,
Natural
okay.
disasters, everything. Yeah.
It's worth a lot more though if you nail it, but it's almost like trying to pull off like it's kind of like a pick six in horse racing where you get all 6 races in a row.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
People do it and they win like $500,000 and then that's like one person in like 100,000.
And they'd probably turn around and do it again and lose it all. So
Yep.
That's how it works.
gambling, man.
Well, I would think that a lot of people who play like futures here now, I would imagine they have some kind of insight in certain.
Well, the people who do it now are probably running hedge funds and they have billions of dollars to work
they
with
don't
and they
care,
can take
right?
the loss.
So yeah.
Like the guys who are running Squid Game.
I was gonna say like the VIPs, pretty much. Yes.
And so that's a fun that's introduced later, but it's a fun juxtaposition in the idea of it's kind of the whole twist of the entire show, but the idea where there's people who have no money and so it doesn't really mean anything because they don't have any, so it doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
And then there's the
nice.
people who have so much money that it doesn't mean anything because you can't spend it. You have too much money. And those people are exactly the same.
That's pretty much the end of the series.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the end of the series. But yeah, the VIPs, I mean, how do you ever get into that position where they're like, oh, how can you do this? And I'm like, well, it's the horse racing analogy. It's just with humans. It's the same exact analogy. People just found higher stakes to bet on.
It's more exciting for them. It's like they don't have anything else left. It's like, all right, that's why you go black tar heroin if you're a heroin addict. You know, so you go all the way in, man. You know, for some people, you know, the small stuff isn't enough. They got to go with the harshest stuff possible to make it
keep
exciting.
Amping it up. Yep.
Well, and do you see that if this could possibly turn into a real thing? Like, I'm thinking 200 years down the line, 200 years in the future, are we going to be betting on people killing each other? I mean, thousands of years ago, back in Roman times, they were betting on Colosseum games and stuff like that. What would be the difference of that happening again?
I mean, it's
Who's to
very
say
Hunger
it's not?
Games that way.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
It is.
Hunger Games would be like hundreds of years in the future if this was happening, because that's what Hunger Games is. They pit people against each other to
Right.
fight for
And then-
survival, and the rich and elite bet on who's going to win.
Right. And people get to watch on TV.
Mm-hmm. And so
But I
this
don't-
is similar. It's just happening right now, and it's like a secret society that only the uber elite participate in. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of like, imagine if they stepped up and it had the wide appeal of football, but there was higher stakes. Like football people are literally sacrificing their bodies and lives, and they're going to live shorter amount of lives, but they sign on to do that. And so I could see people doing this
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it again.
That's
the
saddest
idea
part
is
about
that
it.
it's happening, but having it mass appeal where it's broadcast on like major networks.
Right.
That might take a few hundred years, but again, this isn't completely fiction. That's what's so scary about this.
Right. Exactly. Well, there probably is. I mean, maybe not to the extent of Squid Games, but there probably is already.
Dramatize it and sensationalize it, but the core ideas are actually happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about like
while.
human trafficking and stuff like that, I mean, there's
Yeah.
gotta be type of stuff like this going on as well. So
For sure.
yeah, that's pretty wild to think about.
And you just take people that no one's gonna miss them when they're gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are the people you find.
It reminded me, honestly, like I haven't seen Hostel, but I know like the premise of Hostel, and Hostel's a little more intense, where it's the rich people literally torturing the actual people. But it reminded me of that, where it's just the rich and famous having nothing better to do than, they could give people money, but they're like, no, we're gonna make them fight for it. They're gonna compete. We're gonna watch them literally kill each other over the chance to be us.
Yeah.
And not even that. I bet those people are way more wealthy than, like, have more money than $45.6 million.
Oh, 45.6 million is like a weekend in Vegas.
Well, that sounds like it's a pool. Like you get, 40 millionaires and they throw $1 million in all at the same time.
That's all it is. Yep.
Man.
So that's the fun idea of how cool our capitalistic society is, and it's not unique to America, which we like to have our little bubble. Guess what? Other people are screwed with capitalism too. Anyway, episode 3 is Honeycomb. And so this one is fun because this is like a Mario Party game where you get the little drill and you go around and do it and you get the little object out. The fun part about this is that some people know what the game is.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that getting a triangle is much easier to break out of a little Cookie Crisp than an umbrella.
This is when you realize that Sang-woo, the best friend, the childhood best friend, is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Every time.
Every
I could have told
time.
him. Oh, he kept
31
looking back, and I'm like, "Are you going to tell me something?" And he just doesn't. Like, "Oh, never mind." I'm like, "What, you freaking jerk!"
So then you realize it's like, okay, he's playing for himself. Like they form this little like group together. Like we're like, oh, like we're in the military and like we're all buddies and we're a group, a unit. And he's like, no, I'm gonna betray all of you. Like right from the get go. Like okay, he's not on their side. He's playing for him, and it makes him super like. But they don't know. It's like you as the audience know that he's super untrustworthy, and it makes it sad that they all trust him so much. But yeah, this is my favorite game in the show is the Honeycomb game, just because it like I don't know why exactly. It's something that looks so easy, but it's probably so difficult.
It's difficult, but also like anything could break at any moment. It's like it's similar to a game later. It's like you're standing over like a sheet of ice and it could break in any second if you just move the wrong way or hit the wrong thing. So yeah, it's pretty intense, especially for the more complicated umbrella versus a triangle. So of course you could be like,
It was so sad to see the people with the umbrella and they like got all of it out and then like the handle just broke. And it's like, oh, they were so close.
And then just the tension where you're doing this and there's a gunshot right by your ear.
Every 2 seconds.
I would break the crack. I'd be like, oh.
I mean, if you go to a firing range, you're supposed to have like, stuff in your ear so you don't get, deafened by them. And they're like just a foot away from each other, like blasting people's heads off. No thanks.
Ooh, also the set for that game, the fact that it was like a giant playground, so they all were like little kids again playing on the playground. I also really liked that touch. They really they love to play with the sets and the colors in this game, and I just thought that was a really good touch.
The body that goes down the slide and just leaves the blood streak.
Oh, that was a good scene. That was a great kill. There's some good kills in this. That was one of my favorites. This leaves a trail of blood behind. So this episode, even though I think to what you said, Michelle, I think this was my favorite one as well for the game. But it also highlighted one of the weaknesses that I had for the show personally was I felt like it took too long to get to the game sometimes.
It did, because this was them all coming back and like they did the whole thing in the bathroom or like
the bathroom thing. I'm like, all right, we need that.
That took a really long time. That did not need. I will submit to that. It took a really long time, and that's where I think I was like they really could have set it up where there's more than 6 games, and really like done it that way. I guess 6 should make it tighter, but it's almost like because they had to draw everything out to get to the game.
Well, it's like when you go in and it says it's 9 episodes, and I'm like, there's 6 games.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Should have been 6 episodes, in my opinion. Yeah.
What's funny is most K-dramas are like 16 to 23 episodes, so this one's like really short in comparison, and it still felt surprisingly long just because of all that in between that they were doing.
In between stuff, yeah. As I said, I scrubbed a lot of it just because of that. Like at first I gave it time, like I'm just gonna let it breathe for a bit, but then by that 3rd episode, I'm like, all right, I have to start scrubbing through some of these long takes. So, but at least we got that fun kill.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6. He figures out to lick the back of it so he can break through, and then other people pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought,
He probably saves a lot of people's lives by doing that.
Yeah.
That's weird. Like, as we're sitting here talking about this, in my head, I'm like, I would just lick it or spit on it or something, like get the cookie wet.
Soften it. Right.
Like, I never even saw the show, and my first thought was soften the cookie.
Yeah.
But
You do well.
it's not really a cookie. It's more like if you melt
Soften
sugar.
the thing.
It's like a plate of sugar. But yeah, I don't know why more people, because people are like licking they have a needle that they have to use. They're like licking the end of it and doing it that way. It's like, why don't you lick the cookie? Wouldn't that be faster?
Like the whole thing.
It's
But
like when you have to
isn't
rip paper and you don't have scissors.
Is it that whoever gets it fastest? Like, what was the?
No, you just have to do it within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If you don't do it in 30 minutes, you're also killed.
Or if you break the shape, you get killed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So there's the time crunch. And the main character 4, 5, 6, he somehow goes down to the last second or last stance of every single game.
Yep.
Drama.
It's like every time.
Drama.
Yes,
No.
the
K-drama.
Yes.
And so now the next episode, they specifically set up to create the portions of a riot by not having, they let the people cut in line. And so then there's not enough food to go around because those people cut in line. And so it sets all the drama for there to be a riot. And they kill quite a few people in the riot.
Well, the thing is that they realize, so there's not enough food, and that one guy's like, hey, give me my food. And the thug character kicks him to death. And the guards don't do anything about it. And you see the big golden pig comes down, the money drops in, and they're like, oh. And they all have that realization, we can kill each other. It doesn't have to be in the game. And
that was a great moment. It was like the little switch in their head. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's when you really goes into like the human nature of the games and how it really turns people against each other. But it's also when they start forming teams, which really leads into the tug of war game.
Right, because now I'm going to bet in a group, so I have a better chance of survival rather than being by myself when there's a riot. And so then this is where people think of like strength and stuff. And so it lends right into the tug of war game, which ends this episode. And now you have a group of 10. And this is, again, the idea where the one guy, the doctor guy, knows what game's coming. And so he helps the thug. And they're like, oh, we're going to make a whole team of strong males because it's going to be tug of war. And then our main characters, they have the old guy on their team. They have 2 females on their team. And they're just making their little team of their little friends that they're making. And then they go and see what game it is. And they're like, oh.
they're like, oh.
That whole moment where they're like, we're gonna die. They're like looking back the line at each other, like, oh, what did we do?
No, as soon as I saw the thug getting all the big men, I'm like, oh, it's definitely a tug of war. I'm like, what else could it be? Yeah. Especially after that woman was begging to be on his team. I'm like,
yeah.
This is tug of war. You guys are
that,
going down.
That plays into it too. We haven't really talked about her relationship with the thug. So that's 2-1-12 and 101. 101 the thug and 2-1-12 or 2-1-2. 2-1-12. 2-1-2 is the girl. And they like have like a thing. And then she's like, if you betray me, I will kill you. And then he betrays her.
Foreshadowing.
Yes.
Foreshadowing.
It really circles back to that.
And so the tug of war is fun because you have this one team where everybody pretty much we've seen on camera. We've given some kind of backstory. We've given some kind of dialogue lines. And then there's the other team where we've never seen one of these people. And they're like, what team's going to win? The one with all the protagonists or the nobody?
Yeah.
And so this is where the old guy, he gives all the tips of how to play tug of war because he played tug of war when he was little. And he's like, you got to get really low and you have all your weight back on your heels and you get the little steps for all that. And it works for a little bit, but of course that fails too in the end because they still are outmatched. There's more strength on the other side. And so then our main evil guy, 218's like, stumble forward, they'll fall down, and then we'll just drag them in. And that plan works.
This is also interesting, this game, because so the first 2 games, it's kind of like you're on your own and you have to be smart and you have to be quick, but you are in charge of your own survival. This is the first time that not only you have to rely on other people for your survival, but they actually take part in killing the other people. It's like for them to win, these people have to die. This is kind of the first game that really introduces that.
Yeah,
whole
you
concept.
have to kill people to survive. If you get your little honeycomb out, that doesn't impact anybody else. If you make it across the finish line, it doesn't impact anybody else. You're pulling these people to their death. You fully know that that's what's going to happen too.
Yep. Yeah, because there's a pit, by the way, Alex, where they fall
Oh
to
yeah,
their
it's
death.
above a pit.
It's not like
Yeah,
they
you're
don't
like
just
50 feet up.
fall down to the ground. Yeah. So pull them over the edge. They cut the rope and they fall to their death and splatter into pieces.
Yeah,
And
that's
not
nice little
all of
guillotine.
them die right away.
Oh yeah,
That's the fun part.
that's the worst part.
Where you fall and you just break your legs or you
Ouchie.
shatter your spine and you're just laying
But
there.
they still nail you down in the box.
Yeah.
Yep.
Box,
Wait,
they throw
nail
in the
you down in
incinerator.
a box?
Oh, they bring out
What?
coffins because
They're
they're going to throw them in the
Yeah,
incinerator.
they're these big coffins that look like presents, and they put everybody gets their own coffin, and then those coffins are loaded into an incinerator whether you died or not. If you're eliminated, you get loaded into the box. If you're still alive, they will nail the box closed.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Maybe I
That's
don't want to
Squid
watch this
Game.
show.
And episode 4 ends with the cliffhanger where they're currently failing at their tug of war. And so episode 5 resolves that in the first 5 minutes, but they did leave it in that Netflix fashion of watch next episode. You got to find out.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
I think we finished episode 4, and then we watched like the first 5 minutes of the next episode just to see.
just to
Like, okay, we'll
see,
save the rest of the episode.
Like you know it's gonna happen, but you might as well see it. It's like, all right.
And by doing
Then
that,
do
it
the rest.
allows them not to play a game at all in episode 5. And so this is where you get, what are these guys in pink jumpsuits doing? So we have this cop who went and infiltrated, and he's kind of hidden behind the mask, and he's just seen it. So this gives you that backstory of who are these guys? Who are just these like guards that are maskless and stuff like that. And so this doctor is actually working on people, these dead bodies, and taking out their organs so they can sell those on the black market. And then the guards are getting extra money by then getting those out of the island that they're playing on back to the mainland to sell them.
And so the cop somehow magically,
Is
the
he-
one guard that he infiltrates is involved in this like super secret plan. And the cop, by the way, is there looking for his brother, who I totally thought, like when I saw the actor that played the cop, I'm like, well, his brother was that guy that died in the first episode. He's like the second guy that dies. Because you have the first 2 guys playing the game. There's that guy with the blonde hair.
Yeah.
And the other guy that was running looks so much like the cop. And I'm like, that must be his brother. Like, I was like, he's dead. He has no way of knowing that his brother's already dead in this game, but he's still there looking for him.
See, that wasn't me. I kind of knew who his brother was the whole time for some reason.
Really?
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. I
I
just
had
had
no
this
idea.
feeling. I'm like, that would be a great turn, and they did it. I'm glad they did because it worked out well for me at least. So
Yeah, no, I thought his brother was already dead, and he was just But so yeah, so
That
that,
would work,
for me, the 5th episode was kind of my weak point in the series, just
Yeah,
because
it
it's
was the
just
weakest.
backstory. It's just back. Like you have all of our main characters are watching doing night watch basically to make sure there's not another riot. I like how 456 like psychs out the thug, being like, "Can you really trust those people on your team?" Like he like gets in his head. He's like, "Okay, we're not going to attack anybody tonight." But so that's what's going on with them. It's just them waiting their way through the night, and then it deals with the whole like organ harvesting operation and them getting busted, and it's just a lot of background and not as much game playing.
That's my kind of show though, because 6 doesn't have an impact without 5, because the idea of tug of war and episode 5 is to create our main characters actually become main characters, because right now they're not particularly likable. They're kind of just forced on screen. But episode 5, they're having more heartfelt conversations. They're kind of understanding who each one is and how we relate. And so then episode 6, the idea going into the game is team up with just one partner. You guys were in a team of 10. Now pick one partner. So everybody's like, oh, I'm going to pick my best guy. Or I'm going to,
Right.
somebody I've really got
Don't
along
give it
with.
away. Alex, who would you pick as your partner?
Well, they're not in this chat.
Oh, well, just tell us who it would
No.
be. That's fine. I just want to know, because he doesn't know what happens in the game. So I want to know who you'd
that's
pick as
true.
your partner.
That's a good one, Michelle. All right. Yeah, who would you pick?
I'd probably pick Jimmy Weber. Jimmy Weber, you're out there
Alright.
listening. Wink, my bud.
Cool. So with marbles, they've
Sorry.
built that
Sorry,
up, that
Jimmy.
really relationship. And so everybody is like picked their best person. And so in marbles, it turns out whoever captures everybody's marble, so it's 2. Each
Everybody
person
has
gets 10
10.
marbles. The person who gets 20 marbles advances. The person with no marbles gets killed.
So your best
Your
friend.
You're
Gets
playing
killed.
against.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
twist of this game, because they purposely manipulated your mind to create teams by letting you have a riot, and then the tug of war, and then you're like, well, now I'm going to pick the person I've bonded with the best, and they're like, you should have picked the person you hated the most because one of you is going to have to die.
I do
Yep.
apologize, Jimmy. Yeah.
It's just human instinct. They built it up so well. Like,
Right.
you need to partner up. You're going to be a team. The word team, you're not going to pick somebody you hate. You're thinking, we got to work together. Who will I work together the best with?
And so
Guys,
to me, yeah.
I was going to say, I was just playing around. I would have picked either one of you guys too.
No.
Well,
Not
this-
losing
but
my
this-
marbles to you.
Episode 6 is so devastating for that reason because so you have Songwoo with Ali, and Ali is like one of the best characters too. And then for me, the most heartbreaking one was the husband and wife that pair together, and I'm just like, that was
This whole episode was rough.
like we talked about like what if we were partners, like what would we do?
Yeah. And I'm curious, what would you guys do? Like, what was the conversation between, like, for instance, the husband and wife to
They didn't
get?
show the husband and wife conversation, but I think it depends if you have kids or not. If you don't have kids, I think you both have to just get eliminated.
Yeah.
But if you do have kids, I think one has to move on and try to win that money and come back.
Well, you would have to choose the person that you think could win
Yeah.
the rest. Yeah. So.
Yep.
So then, at that point, you're sacrificing yourself for your kid at home.
Exactly.
But, dude, without kids, though, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on. Our conversation was that we would both be eliminated. Like we would just each keep our 10 marbles, and that means.
You win. Sure you would. Sure you would. Wink, wink,
Well,
wink.
I mean, they go into that like skipping ahead. So the husband is the one that survives, and in the next episode, somebody like gives him a hard time. It's Sang-woo, I think, the 218. He gives the husband a hard time about it, and like, oh, like what are you gonna do? Like you died, like your wife died, so you could be here to live, like.
Don't
You
let her
really,
death
yeah,
be in
because he
vain.
wanted to end the game. The husband
Yeah.
wanted them to vote and end the game. Like, didn't enough people die? And Sungwoo was like, "We're not quitting. Like, did you get this far to quit? Did your wife die so you could quit?" And then over the night, while everybody's like keeping guard again, the husband kills himself because he can't live with what he's done.
Oh,
So he did sacrifice her
Oh,
death for
wow.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yep. The show is
Unbelievable.
sunshine and rainbows. You'll love it, Alex. Let me tell
But
you.
no, episode 6 is my favorite episode because it's
Yeah.
so drawn out with all of the decisions. When we see Sang-woo literally switch out the marbles
Oh.
for rocks, just to, like Ali beats him at playing marbles, and he knows that he's done, and so he has to literally do something. So he knows what he's doing. I'm gonna kill this guy by any means necessary. And then you have our main good guy 456 literally
Not
trick the
so-
old guy into moving
so
on. He
good.
literally uses the guy who has
Yeah.
a brain tumor and confuses him because he lost at marbles too. And he's like, "Oh, I actually said odd, not even." After the dude reveals his hand and he's holding 2 marbles or whatever.
One marble, I think, wasn't it? I don't remember. But yeah,
Something like that.
still. I was like, oh.
The best part was the old man knew what was happening the whole time.
Yeah, we'll find that out later.
Well, no, but he even says at
Huh?
the very end before he gives him the last
Oh, yeah,
marble,
yeah.
he's like, "Is it fair that you spent all this time tricking an old man?"
Yeah, at the very end when he's like, "Oh, that's not fair that I'm gonna do a bet of my 19 marbles versus 1." He's like, "Well, it's not. Is it fair that you literally cheated me to get all of those 19 marbles?"
And then I guess
for me,
sacrifices
the
himself.
saddest game was the 2 girls. It was sae-byeok and 240 who just joined their game, and you learn that 240 she killed her stepfather and went to prison. And basically, when she got out of prison, they invited her immediately to this game. She has no life. And before the game, she tells sae-byeok, "I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that you win."
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And she does. She sacrifices
She
herself.
does.
And
Yeah.
it's so sad because they're like talking and becoming friends, and they're like, and she's like, "Oh, when we get out of here, I'm gonna take you to this place, and we're gonna do these things, and you're gonna live your life." And obviously, that's never gonna happen because only one
Right.
of them's gonna make it out, or even make it
And
forward.
what worked well in that scene too is they had great chemistry together. Like you
Mhm.
could see like them on the outside becoming good friends, you know. So So yeah, it was tough. It was a rough episode. Really good. One of my favorites, I think, as well.
It just takes the character development so you care. Because if you didn't care who Ali was, or if you didn't care who 240 was, it doesn't matter when they get their brains blown out. It's like
the
just
first
another
few
person.
episodes I didn't. I was like, okay, I'm here for, some shock value and artsy stuff, and then you get to know these characters and you care for them, and then by episode 6, you're like, oh my god, this is brutal.
It was a good rug pull.
As much as I didn't enjoy episode 5, you're right. You can't have episode 6 without episode 5.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah.
That's how numbers work.
That's true.
That's true, Alex. Thank you.
I'm glad I could be a part of the conversation.
So then
we have Glass Bridge episode where I'm guessing it's just kind of like a hopscotch floors lava type of thing, but
oh yeah, hopscotch kind of. Okay.
It's just the idea where there's 2 glass panels all the way along. One is glass that can hold you, the other breaks through if you fall on it. And there's 16 people left. And so they had to pick the numbers beforehand before they knew the game. And if you're 1, you're screwed because you have no idea. When you're 16, you get to see everybody else go. So everyone who fails, that's knowledge. So now you know that the 1 left is good. They just broke through the glass, so now there's no choice of 2. There's just 1. And so the idea is to be at the back end. And this is where we get some fun pushing people to their deaths.
Yeah, there's a lot of pushing.
This is also the episode that introduces the gold mask wearing VIPs who are I think all but one of them are American.
Yeah.
Yep.
They speak in English the whole time.
Wow.
And they're awful people. And like I didn't notice this at first, but Trevor's like, oh look, human furniture. And I was like, what? I thought it was just like sculptures and stuff. Nope, actual people that are serving as furniture, because that's how wealthy and like just horrible these people are.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, human furniture. Man.
And they're betting, so they're betting on who they think is going to win the game.
So with this, how quickly does the glass fall out? Because in my brain, I'm thinking you just sprint as fast as you can.
It's any weight on these glasses. It's like if you put like 5 pounds.
The one guy tried that. One of the
he
guys
made it like 5 things, but that was just luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it seemed like as soon as any weight was on it, like it shattered.
Yeah, it shatters completely. It's not like it kind of cracks or something.
So we were curious because the glass is like set on like these iron bars. It's like, well, what if you just walk across the iron bars?
Yeah,
they'd probably shoot you.
Yeah. Like, no cheating. They don't like that. Maybe they won't care though. I don't know. They probably wouldn't care, I would think.
So what I didn't like about this episode was the very end, where it's like once again they're down to like the last second on the clock, and once the clock and it's our 3 faves, it's 456, 218, and 067, and they're like racing across to finish, and as soon as they get off, the timer ends, and the bridge, all the glass that hasn't exploded yet, just explodes, and there's glass shards everywhere flying through the air, and
they're glass shards to almost dust. And so I hated the slow motion aspect where the little pieces of glass and cut them off the cheeks, but what I hated was how somehow this huge ass glass shard, like the size of a knife, ends up in 67, like just in her abdomen, and like it ruined the buildup of the end, and it just gets they didn't know how to have either of them kill her for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's kind of what I felt too. Like they didn't want to have one of our people that we were rooting for do the deed. To like, well, we'll have the game do it somehow.
Well, I mean, but then it does end up being Song with it.
But she's already dead.
Yeah, she's
already literally
dead.
was
Yeah.
right when saying I put her out of her misery.
Yeah.
What would be the point of getting her to the finish line if they wanted her dead anyways?
I know, it was weird. It's just because she's 15 and the other guy's 14. And so I think that's why.
Yeah, they're 14, 15, and 16. That's their ordered across the bridge. And so our main character, 456, he's 16. So he's the last person that can get across. So she has to get across for him to get across. But to me, it was a lame way to get rid of her. Yeah.
It was. Just because all the other glass, they showed it. They're little tiny pieces. You're not going to have this big gigantic piece wedged in her abdomen, because it would hit the other guys too if there's that big a glass coming around, especially
Right.
16.
No, I agree.
He's last. His whole back is gonna just have like a
Be
glass.
done. Maybe it look like Godzilla.
But I did
all those
like
spikes coming out of
the
him.
guy who knew the glass.
Yeah.
And the dude's like, oh, the last one, they turn off the lights because they can figure out that he's worked in a glass factory, so he can tell the two glasses apart. And he's like, there's 20 seconds left. I'm just going to throw you forward because you're not picking and I need to get across.
It was
And
funny.
this does pay off the sex scene in the bathroom.
Oh yeah. So the whole thing
Yeah.
with the 212 and 101, so the thug and the girl, it's like he's not moving because he's like, somebody else has to go in front of me. I'm not moving. One of you has to pass because I'm not giving up my life so you guys can live. And so she comes forward. She's like, I'll go. And she just wraps her arms around him and pulls him
takes him with
backwards.
her, like, yes.
And it,
Like,
I
finally.
remember Trevor was like, was saying, well, he's not going to die. Like, this isn't how he's going to go out. Like, he has to have a better death than this. And then when that was happening, he's like, nope, this is perfect.
Never
Yeah,
This is
when
mind,
he's
exactly
just
how-
standing there, I
This
was
is
like, he
perfect.
needs a better death. But when she does it, and that makes it a good death.
You're coming with me, buddy. We're going to hell together. I'm like, yes.
So why did she kill him?
So they had like a relationship before Tug of War. And then because he knew Tug of War was going to happen and they needed strong men, he's like, you're not going to be on my team. And she's like, but you said that we were together. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
And so she told him, like, I'll kill you. Like, if you betray me, I'm going to kill you. And she does.
Ah, I get
Lover
it. Okay.
scorned kind of thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think they even say that. Like, the American guy is
Yeah.
hell hath no fear, like a woman scorned.
Because they're just watching entertainment.
Yep.
They don't care that two people just died.
I mean,
It's
she
the
was crazy
story. It's
from
the
get-go.
narrative.
You should have known. You should have seen it in her eyes, man. She was crazy since episode one.
She was.
On. Shoving up all those smokes up her hoo-ha. My
Oh,
goodness.
yeah, that was an
Wow.
interesting character trait.
Yeah. I was like,
Oh,
all right.
wow.
Yeah.
And so
Anyway.
then episode 8, it's a really short one. Like every episode is 55 minutes,
it's
except this
pretty
one's less than a half hour. And it's just to essentially get rid of the cop storyline because they didn't know what to do. And they're like, the guy who looks like Dr. Doom, the front man or whatever, he's
Dr. Doom.
actually this guy's brother, the cop's brother.
Why did it take me
Surprise.
that long to figure that out? Dr. Doom. That's what he looked like. Like this whole
Yeah.
time. Like he looks so
We-
familiar.
We watched honest trailers right before doing this, and they mentioned that. And
And I was like, see, I told you.
Right.
Everybody's picking up on the Dr. Doom vibe.
Nice. Yeah.
he definitely had the
So we
coolest
get-
mask.
I guess what the big thing about this episode was the reveal
Yeah,
guess.
that was really the big thing.
that
It
they're
was the
brothers.
backstory. He's been hunting his brother, and his brother's actually the front man because he finds the list of past winners, and he finds his brother's name from like 2017, and so
Right.
that's what his brother wanted to do. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the front man and run the games." now."
Yeah, he's like, this was great. I want to do this the rest of my life. I guess. All right. Weirdo. It's also weird stuff too. Oh my god.
And then his brother kills him.
Yep, just shoots him.
Yep. Now
And
that-
I still want to know if the text messages went through. I wish they'd shown something, like anything.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, they must have gone through to somebody, unless the island was so remote that they couldn't get off island in time.
I mean, you see him. There's a part where he's like hitting the little red
Resend
exclamation
button, yeah.
points.
yeah,
I'm like, I've been there.
yeah, possibly in season 2. We shall see, if there is.
If there is, I think the creator said that if there is a season 2, it's actually going to focus on the front man. So
Yeah.
instead of another set of games, which
Nice.
would make sense because then we go into episode 9 with
Yeah.
Squid Game and our finale. I remember Trevor was really upset because he's like, I thought Squid Game was played with 6 people. There's only 2 people here.
They show Squid Game at episode 1 as
No, they
kids
do.
play, and it's a team of 3 versus 3. And now we're playing Squid Game with 2 people, and they specifically wanted as many people to die as possible.
Kids, you guys are gonna have to explain what Squid Game is.
So
Yeah,
it's a Korean game.
it's
It's,
a
played on
Korean
the
game, yeah.
playground. The reason it's called Squid Game, it's kind of like King of the Hill, but there's a specific like pattern on the board where it looks like a squid, and so you essentially have to push kids off of like you have to get to this one center point.
Huh.
Oh, and
okay.
I guess before all this happens, they have the dinner at the triangle table, and
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
the dinner
yeah.
is a cool like symbology and just
they dress them all. They all have suits to wear, and
It reminded me a lot of Midsummer, if you guys have seen that film, where they have the big dinner scene outside with a big triangle table and they're all dressed up weird. Had that vibe. I liked it a lot.
And then they're all just left with a knife. They clear the rest of dinner away and they just leave the knife behind for all of them. They're all sitting in their beds separately. And
this is when 456 officially hates 218 because he saw what he did to the glass guy.
Yeah. But it's also like you see 456 and 67, like they're talking and they tell each other what they're going to do with the money if they win, because they're kind of teaming up against 218. And then she's like, promise me whoever wins will use the money to help each other's families. And he's like, no, we're going to win together. And then she like passes out from blood loss. So he runs to get help. And while his back is turned, 218 slits her throat.
Yep.
Oh
that
my.
Guy. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is right. She was dying anyway. There's no way she was going to be able to compete in another game.
She just shouldn't be in that position.
Yeah.
It was stupid character design.
Yeah.
It's because they knew that if she was healthy, there's no way he would have been able to stab her in the neck. Yeah. She's too scrappy.
Yeah.
And also the Squid Game, the way they structure the Squid Game, it's 456 versus 218. If you had a third person, it would just be weird who's fighting who, and they just didn't know how to script it. And they wanted to script better. It's
a scripting issue. Yeah, that's fine. I get why they did it. I guess to get that moment.
And so then in Squid Game, they don't actually play Squid Game. They just wrestle in the mud. It just becomes mud wrestling for a while.
Cool shot, but that's all it was.
They have their little knives. They're like stabbing at each other.
Yeah, they both get stabbed up pretty good. 218 has the advantage the whole time, and then 456 I think kicks his leg, and he's like, "Oh, now I'm done." They didn't set it up enough.
He bites his ankle.
Yeah, he bites his ankle, and that it gets him completely done.
Like, I'm done.
He gets concussed at the same time, and he starts bleeding everywhere. Like 456 has at least 3 stab wounds in the middle at this point.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, 456 like beats him up, like he's like on top of him, like beating his face.
But it's the ankle bite that somehow turns the tables.
It is. So then you have 456, and he's like, I want to vote to end the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like that way me and my friend, we can walk out of here. No one gets the money. It goes to all those people's families. And instead of letting him do that, because Sang-woo does not want to go, or 218 does not want to go back to his life.
Without money, yeah.
Without money, because he has no life to go back to. He stabs himself in the neck and kills himself so that 456 can win.
Dang.
Yeah. That was a good
stab scene too. Yeah, it was a good stab scene. It was a good, nice split right out of the neck.
I'm looking at I'm like, how are they doing that? That was pretty good.
And so now we have to wrap up the entire show, and we get to see what 456 does. And so for a year, he doesn't do anything.
Just feel sorry for himself.
Yeah. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to get my hair done, and I'm going to get dyed red, and I'm going to actually go find 67's brother, and I'm going to help the other dude's mom, and we'll get that all covered. Because his mom also died. So his mom had type 2 diabetes, and she didn't take care of it, and she literally died while he was playing the game. So that kind of devastated him for a year. But the big kind of, I guess, revelation here is that the old guy didn't die, because he plays marbles with the old guy, and we get everybody else's brains blown out. But the old guy, we just hear the shot, and then the camera doesn't actually ever show it. So the old guy who has a brain tumor actually does have a brain tumor, but he's one of the VIPs. He's
not just the VIP.
He's like,
he created the game.
VIP.
He did create Squid Game, and this time he wanted to participate in it. And so they have this whole deathbed kind of talk.
And they have that whole game about the homeless man on the street
being saved by somebody
before midnight. Yeah.
There's good in the world, and the dude's like, nah, and the dude's like, yeah. I always thought 456 was just gonna run down there and save the homeless guy himself, but no, that's what I would.
That's what I thought too for a minute.
The old guy's not going anywhere.
Guess not. It's all right.
So we get that kind of backstory to the game and that kind of closure, I guess, and then you finally you see him. He's gonna get on a plane to America and go see his daughter, and that's what he wanted to win the money for. And while he's on the way to the airport, he sees the salesman again, the guy that he played Pogs with, basically.
Yes.
Playing Pogs with somebody else. And so he runs over, and the salesman guy, he gets away. But the guy who's playing against is holding the Squid Game card. And
With the
456
phone
takes it from him. He's like, no, no, don't do this.
And he's about to go on the plane to go see his daughter, who, he's divorced and the new husband has a job in America. So she no longer lives in Korea. And so he's going to go get on the plane to that. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to call the Squid Game number and I'm not going to get on the plane. I'm literally going in the little transfer point. I have my luggage. I'm about to board the plane. He's like, no, I can't do that. And so this is the thing of, I don't know if there's justification for that character to make that decision.
Yeah, it's like he decides, I'm going to take the Squid Game down. Like he calls and the front man gets on the phone. He's like, don't do this.
He's like, I'm pulling like some like Liam Neeson in Taken, and I'm going to go and take down Squid Game by myself because I won it once by pure luck.
And then the show ends.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is I was having that same thought as you, like, why would he do this? And the only thing I can think of is that conversation he had with the old man about helping the person on the street. He's like, well, I want to help those people, even though it means losing my family. Like, I need to help that person on the street, is my guess for his motivation. Like, maybe he broke him down to that point. He's like, no, I have to win this. I'm winning that last game against that old man. That's my guess.
It was just guilt. Like,
oh, sure. I'm sure there's a lot of guilt.
The whole reason he didn't spend the money, it was for the first year. It's blood money. He felt guilty about spending it.
And also, he doesn't really care about his daughter.
Clearly.
Apparently. Like I told you, if it's episode 1, I'm like, I don't know. He really cares too much. But yeah.
Well,
that was Squid Game, everybody.
Oh, well,
Alex is like, I'm never watching this.
Yeah. I don't know.
He just found out the whole story.
That's true.
Well, that spoilers doesn't ruin it for me. Like, I mean, there's a lot more to it than what you guys explained. I mean,
sure.
If there wasn't, then you took 9 episodes and turned it into an hour-long episode on here. So, I mean,
it's a lot of cinematography. I'll give them good cinematography and set design.
Classical music.
Yes, I like the classical music.
Now, I trying to do a little research. I did come across an article called Squid Game Crypto.
I saw that today.
Yeah. Someone stole millions of dollars, and Squid Game crypto is now at 0. So this was either a giant rug pull or something going on with that. But man, that's a Squid Game all on its own. I would not want to be betting my money on that. Well, whenever I saw it pop up in CoinMarketCap, I'm sitting there going, who would invest in this? Come on. Don't invest in stuff after if it's got the name of a TV show of people dying from a game.
Or
they're playing to win money.
Yeah.
Right. So,
irony.
There you go. Irony at its finest.
So I know we've gone a little long, but I do want to know if you guys made the American version of Squid Game, where they're not using like tug of war and marbles. Those are kind of relatively
red light, green
agnostic.
light too.
Yeah. But if you were doing like childhood games from your childhood, what games would you think would be the most devastating if people were actually killed when they were eliminated?
Red Rover.
Yeah, I think Red Rover would be so good. Because you pick.
Tag.
I mean, Red Rover, you literally say send so and so over.
Choose the people.
And then if they can't make it through the arms and they're just shot right then,
so you come over.
You have twice to kind of control their destiny in your hands.
Wow. And you can almost make that scene like insanely like tense. Like say like the old man just couldn't get past the arms. And you just see him clawing and just let me through, just let me get through. And like you're seeing the devastation and then all of a sudden, boom, done. Yeah, wow. You can make that so much like tense. Oh, I don't like that.
There'd have to be something though that wouldn't just let the people like if you were like if we were holding hands and someone was running over, like what prevents us from just letting them through? Do we get shot?
No, they can let you through. That's a total strategy. But again, you're playing for money. All these people are out for themselves.
That's fair.
Right, they might be
and
like, hey,
when you're running, you get to pick
where you run,
which arm to go after. You get to say, oh, am I going to go after these 2 strong guys or I'm going to go to the weak point? It's always the weakest link in the chain. So you strategize that too.
Or if you're athletic, you just sprint and then take a
Jump
dive.
over.
Yeah,
Dive,
jump right
jump,
over.
yeah.
A dive jump.
That's true. You could do that.
Dodgeball
as
would
well.
also be good.
Dodgeball would be really
Yeah, that was
fun.
my other one I was gonna think of was dodgeball.
But it's with
Splatter some heads.
like balls that's got spikes and nails in them.
Of course.
So whenever you go to
Or-
catch the ball, it sticks to your hands.
Or if you don't catch it, it explodes or something. I don't know.
Well,
you
that's
have to
like
catch it.
the games you used to play like with balloons as a kid, where you just have to keep it
Ah,
off
yes.
the ground.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sam. Oh, it could be a balloon game.
just a
Maybe
balloon game.
the balloon has something in it that's toxic or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good
They
one.
don't even need the game to kill you, though. I mean, they just come and shoot you if you mess up.
That's true. That's
It's
true.
fun. They have no problem doing that because there's just that whole like the shudder of everybody when somebody gets killed off screen.
Well, then it'd be fun to have the balloon game because you would have the popping sounds and people
Yes.
would know if that was a gunshot or a balloon.
Right.
And then keep going like, what? And then you think someone's dead and you turn around, they're not. Like, oh, thank goodness.
And then you miss the balloon.
And then you miss the balloon, and then boom,
Balloon,
you-
like, oh shit, bring it home.
and then your
Your
neighborhood app goes off, and everybody's saying, "Oh, did you get? Was there a gunshot? Gunshot? Does
So
that happen to you
fireworks,
guys?
fireworks.
Fireworks, gunshots? What's going on?"
I mean, another fun game. Have you guys ever played where you have a water balloon and you toss it back and forth?
yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, kind of
Egg
like a
toss.
hot potato, or you do
Yeah.
with like an egg or something like that.
Yeah, any kind of hot potato game, and if it's on you, dead.
Actually, there's
Anything
another.
on-
Speaking of eggs, you take the spoon and you
Yeah.
run with the egg in the spoon, and you got to do some kind of. Oh man, see,
All those
this
like
is
picnic games,
Yeah.
like
picnic games. That's all it is. Yeah, three-legged
Oh, that-
race.
That's what our one's called. It's called Picnic Game.
oh,
Oh wow, this is the American version right now. We should
Yeah,
just
the
cut
American
the
version.
full hour of us talking at the beginning out and just let's throw all this stuff in.
Picnic games, everybody, coming soon. Netflix 2022.
so that'll be wheelbarrow race,
Sack race.
the sack race. We're all
Sack-
on races.
Yeah,
Three-legged race.
it's a lot of good ones.
Wow.
What's the
Tag.
Oh, the
The
toss and the
toss
bean
the
bags.
bean
What's it
bag.
called?
Oh, cornhole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cornhole.
horseshoes?
It's a lot.
This
It
is.
is a lot.
Let's write a script. It seems that Netflix just greenlights anything.
Well,
so
I mean, especially just because picnic is so American too. You have like apple
Yes.
pie somewhere on the
Quintessential
picnic.
American.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
are games like horseshoe and cornhole. Like I'm even saying it, I'm like, this sounds so American.
It really does. That's funny.
Have like a corn maze somewhere. Why not?
Why not?
Ah, corn maze. Oh, I like it. And the people are in the
Everyone has to
pie.
wear like overalls.
The
my
people
God.
are the pie.
All their outfits are overalls.
The people are in the pie.
Yes. I thought this was apple pie. It's not.
Oh,
It's
that's
number
fantastic.
27. Yeah. Anyways. All right. Well, that was Squid Game. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Thank you for
Talked
telling
about
me
that.
about Squid Game. So now I don't have to watch it. I thought you guys would be able to talk me into it. Not happening.
Okay.
Yep. But I
fair.
appreciate the try.
You just go
So
through
what
it. Watch
makes
some
you, I'm
episodes.
curious, Alex. What makes you not want to watch it?
Oh, I already know everything. No, I'm kidding. No, it just sounds like it's a little too. Maybe it is just too gory for me, and I don't want to get lost through a dub. Like whenever I hear that, I mean, I hear this about it any show. If you're listening to the dub, then you're getting a totally different experience, and that's what I've learned through like my little bits of research is, you've got a character who's supposed to be menacing and wild, but through the dub they come out just crazy and dumb.
Kooky.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
All right.
yeah. And I mean, translations get mixed up way too easily.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could be saying something absolutely just totally different than what the dubs are doing or whatever. So
Context,
yeah,
sure.
the context is totally different. So
Well said.
I don't know. I'm not a good reader. So there you go. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I just want to give a shout out to something actually being popular because there's no connection between popularity and quality. That's been proven time and time again. And I wouldn't say this is the best show ever, but I'm surprised that a good show actually got hyped.
I'm trying to think of like some of the other ones besides Tiger King. Well, and Stranger Things. But Stranger Things is good.
Yeah, but
Don't
they didn't
say
hype it
anything.
before the show. They hyped it after the show came out. That was, I don't know.
That was before
That was
Netflix knew
before-
how to create the algorithm and
Right.
generate their own thing. It's before they did their top 10. Oh, look what's trending. It's our new movie. That's weird.
Oh, how did that
Who would have
happen?
guessed?
Week after week, it just
The
keeps
one
happening.
that we're shilling to people.
Exactly. Right there on the splash page at
Coincidence.
the top.
No, Bird Box. That was one that got hyped a ton.
Oh my
And that
God,
was
yeah.
a terrible version of A Quiet Place.
Because
Yeah.
it had a huge name attached to it.
Yeah.
You throw her name onto it. Who was it? It was Julia
Sandra
Roberts,
Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
God, I tell you what, dude, those two women, Sandra Bullock, and yeah, you know what I'm saying. Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Cool. Next time you see a squid, remember that is the squid from Squid Game.
There
Could
is
be
a
any
game.
It could be the squid right beside you.
To everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed. Michelle, thanks for joining.
Of course.
Yes. it was
And
fun
till
having you.
next time, talk to you later.
All right, prog out.
Adios, y'all.